That's the one that I used to go home at night, and there were no street lights, and I used to get scared when I'd get about halfway home, and then I'd start running. And the more scared I got, the faster I ran. You know, the old story.
Yeah.
I can remember figuring the boogeyman was going to get me, you know. Well, yeah, these are things that I remember that were exciting about being, but we were allowed to do a lot of things. I mean, we're pretty much on our own. We did a lot of work in the garden because we had a big garden, and it was kind of the kids' job to keep the weeds out and help plant the food and then to harvest it and help harvest it and help can.
You came from a little town, right? A
little town of about 300 or 400 people.
Did it have a village idiot?
We probably did. That was it, probably. But
or someone who was a little
touched,
yeah.
Yeah, I would say we probably did.
That everybody knew about.
Yes, I think there were some people like that, but I don't remember. I can kind of remember a couple of old guys. They used to sit in the entryway to the grocery store where they had lots of barrels of stuff, beans and peas and whatever they think. They had barrels of stuff. And then, of course, they had a little candy area where they had these little candy containers. But they used to have apple barrel and a potato barrel and so forth in the grocery store. But they were old. And if they wanted to have an apple, they just went and got an apple. And the owner didn't care. They greeted everybody that came in and out. That was where they spent their day. It was a kind of an old folks gathering place.
Yeah.
There were 2 or 3 chairs, and it was just inside the store. I can see them sitting there.
Do you know how old they might have been?
Oh, they were probably 80. They were probably more like 70, because the old people died at 65 in the old days.
Yeah.
But they were probably 70. I don't know, but they were old, and they used to totter in and I don't remember what they did eat, all except I know they used to sample the barrels. You could have a barrel of cookies too. You had a barrel of almost everything. But I remember barrels and scoops and putting things in. Don't remember how people purchase stuff. I just remember that one of the things I did almost every day at about 5:30 or so, I would go to the grocery store to pick up our beef for the night. My dad liked to have beef, and we had steak or some form of beef, like Swiss steak and stuff like that. And my job was to go to the grocery store and get it every day. And the package.
Because they had a trade-off, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. They were the hardware store and the grocery store. They just exchanged stuff. They didn't deal in money. The owner of the grocery store was my friend. His name was Calvin Brandenburg. That was his dad owned that, and my dad owned the hardware store. So we wanted nails or we wanted something. Dad had a lot of stuff. We could just, if we wanted to do something, build something or whatever.
Was that the only grocery store?
Only grocery store, only hardware store. We had a ice cream shop that had some tables in it. Kind of like a little cafe, but it wasn't a cafe. But it was kind of a nice place to go, and you could get ice cream. They had to make it, I guess. They made homemade ice cream. Most people made their own because they had the milk products. I mean, they had farms, and we made a lot of homemade ice cream.
Did you have refrigerators then?
No. Mostly you kept stuff by putting it in the basement. That was the nearest thing to preserving food. That and a...
Did that work in the summer?
Yes, basements were cool enough to... Our stuff lasted in the basement. You did a lot of stuff by canning, by jars. I mean, almost all the vegetables and stuff, and fruits and stuff, apples, and we just made canned. We canned a lot of stuff. We had a lot of stuff cooking, and then it had to cook so long, and then we'd have to make the jars clean and all that stuff. We were helping Mom do that.
What were your beverages?
Milk.
Everybody
Milk.
drank milk?
Mom and Dad had coffee, I think. I think they made coffee. In fact, a lot of people used to have a coffee pot on the cook stove almost all the time,
Uh-huh.
as I recall.
Well, Grandma must have been the first one to get the gas stove, huh?
She may have been, because we had a gas stove early on. That was a wonderful thing. Everybody cooked off a cook stove or fireplace. They just had a fireplace.
Yeah.
And how you can cook off a fireplace, I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
But they used to cook off a fireplace. They'd have a pot or something that got cooked for the fireplace. I don't know how they did that. We made our own butter, of course. You just took cream and just stood there and pounded like that. Pretty soon it separated out, and you had the buttermilk off the side, and you had the butter fat, and there you had you had butter.
Did you drink buttermilk?
I don't like buttermilk. It's the creamiest looking stuff. It looks wonderful. The only people that really liked it were the pigs.
Yeah.
We say that because when I had an uncle and aunt that lived in a little town right near Cedar Falls, just west of there. It was called something like Branson, but it was something else. But it was about 5 or 6 miles out of town, and it had a creamery. And the creamery was right across the street from my uncle and aunt's farm. They had a little farm, and they had cattle on it, and pigs, and chickens and stuff. And we used to get the buttermilk from the creamery across the street. We'd get milk cans full of buttermilk and we'd just take it to the pig trough and just pour it in the trough. And you were pouring out this cream. It was buttermilk, but it just looked as creamy as it could be. I just hated it. I didn't like the taste of it. When I would visit them, then my job was to do chores. That meant feed the pigs.
So they had an arrangement to get that.
Oh yeah. All I did, they had, this was a byproduct of making butter.
Huh.
They were as a creamery. They got all the cream from the farmers, and then they would make butter, and then they would sell the butter.
Well, buttermilk is great to cook with.
In the old days, it used to be in a lot of recipes.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody had buttermilk.